everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, I've seen the movie, so let's talk about it. If Saturday morning cartoons fueled your imagination as a kid and powers your action figure collecting now as an adult, then you're in the right place. Thanks for stopping by, and welcome to Saturday Morning Toy Collector. And if you like my content, please consider subscribing. For more than 2 years now, Articulated Empire has become your trusted online retailer. They carry all the latest lines like Mythic Legion, Savage Crucible, Marvel Legends, NECA, and much, much more. They ship your items quickly and securely. You'll be quite happy how Steve and his team follow through with their care and attention. Articulated Empire also offers free shipping over $75 and no tax except for Illinois residents. So head over to articulatedempire.com today and build your empire. All right, so Friday afternoon of last week, my wife and my middle son, who was the only one in my family interested in seeing the movie, other than myself, went to go see Masters of the Universe. And I'm going to be right up front. I'm going to completely spoil everything there is to spoil about this film. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it and then come back and check this video out later if you care to hear what I think about it. Just fair warning, from here on out, spoilers. So I'm going to start off with everything that I loved. It by no means is it a perfect film, but it is as close to perfect of an adaptation as I could have possibly hoped for, living in the world that we live in, getting what we've gotten in the past. So I'm going to start there. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the stuff that I didn't like, because there's a fair amount in there that I didn't really care for. But I am the type of person to where, like I'll give you a good example, would be the Spider-Man review that I did recently of the SH Figure Arts Gamerverse Spider-Man. There's some things in there I didn't like about that figure, but I ball those up and I throw them away because the overall experience of the figure is fantastic. So there are some things about the movie that I didn't like or I didn't care for, or I personally would have done differently. But that does not in any way negate how much fun and joy this film brought me. So those things for me are easily overlooked. There's only one thing really that kind of I bumped up against and was like, ugh, I wish they hadn't done that. That just didn't sit well with me. And we're going to get into that. So we're going to start with the things that I loved, and then we're going to go over the things that didn't really care for so much. So let's just dive right in. Number one, the movie is overall, it is fun and goofy. It never really takes itself too seriously. And that's exactly what this movie should be. As a matter of fact, the movie kind of in some small ways even calls out how goofy the cartoon was. And if you were to see that adapted into live action, you would instantly see how that does not work. It doesn't translate. A good example is at the end of every episode of, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in the 80s, you would have like one final joke either told by Prince Adam or Cringer or Orko or things like that, and or characters like that who would give one final joke and everybody would stand around laughing until it faded to black and roll credits. They do that in this movie. There is a scene where people just stand around and laugh, and lean backwards as the movie comes to a close. And you realize real quickly that as a kid, that's funny and that works in a cartoon. Maybe you don't even notice it. You certainly don't bump up against it. But when you see it in live action, you're like, ooh, as an adult, you're like, that doesn't work. And so I think that's kind of a smart way from the filmmakers, from the writer and the director, to sort of, kind of show you in like in a small way that adapting things literally from 80s cartoon to 2026 live action movie is not always a good thing. Some creative liberties have to be taken. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say any creative liberties that were taken with this film were light, and it was very light, and it was very, there's not a lot of creative liberties, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's a fairly faithful adaptation. The aesthetics of the film are, to me, spot on. Bright, vibrant colors, crazy over-the-top architecture, Art Nouveau style designs. It looks like the cartoon come to life. It's gorgeous. The movie looks good. I think the translation of the world from 2D into three-dimensional, cartoon into live action works. I think the design for the characters, the way the characters are updated, works. I think all of the creative decisions as far as translating the cartoon designs into three-dimensional real-world live action designs is unmatched. I in a world where people are like, let's tame things down and make things very realistic, this was the opposite of that. They're like, nope, let's get it as close to the cartoon as humanly possible and still make these things believable. And if we have to err, let's err on the side of cartoon accuracy and less on the side of real world reality. So let's talk about the actors playing the different roles. I can't say that Idris Elba would have been on the top of my list for Man-at-Arms, but I think he was a perfect choice. He kind of gives I was kind of surprised that they took his character in the way that they did and kind of making him like a sort of drunken, ashamed, disgraced, like feeling like a failure route with that character. Is certainly in a world where that type of remorse and regret for past actions, for letting down his king and queen, would have never come into play. I can't remember a time when the cartoon ever went that deep into morality and regret and guilt. But I thought that it was a good story point. I think they handled it deftly in a way between the writing and the acting. I think they handled it in a way that was not too grown up, too adult, too heavy-handed. It felt the right level of appropriateness for this film. And now, having seen the movie, I can't think of anybody better maybe to have played Man-at-Arms other than my choice probably would have been somebody like Bryan Cranston. I think probably could have pulled that off, but Idris Elba was incredible, and he's one of the standouts in the film, along with Jared Leto. Camila Mendes as Tila was fantastic. I am not familiar with this actress. I can't say that I've ever seen her in anything at all. And she was great as Tila. Very spunky, very capable. She does not play the damsel in distress. She does not play an over-the-top, I don't need help, hard ass. Like, she played it straight and right down the middle. She's very capable. But she also she knew how to ask for help. In one funny scene, I thought she was great as Tila. And I don't know who I would have cast in that role. I thought she was fantastic. Your characters like Fisto and Ram Man could have been played by anybody, and I think the actors that portrayed them did great. They were funny. Um, I love that we got a little bit of Moss Man in there. I thought that was awesome. I start thinking of all the other characters that I would love to see on screen in the future. Mechaneck was great. Mechaneck was probably my favorite, like, little side character. It's a toss up between him and Ram Man. They were both fantastic. They both get their moments. Um, and if there's a complaint there, is that I would have loved to have seen more of those. They were called the champions. I would have loved to have seen more of the champions. Just them going at it. But I feel like we did get a fair amount of them in the movie, and so I'm that's not a complaint. If there's a side character that I felt that was sort of sidelined and we didn't get a lot of in the movie, is Cringer. And that's understandable because he is a money sponge. Anytime he is on screen, it's all CG. And so anytime he's on screen, that's just money being swallowed right there. There's your budget. Every second he's on screen, your budget's running. And so, but the flip side of that is that Cringer and Adam are peanut butter and jelly. You can't have one without the other. Like, they have to be there together. They went on all adventures together. They did everything together. And if I did have one regret or one thing I felt was lost that was needed, was at no point in the movie do you ever see He-Man point the sword at Cringer and turn him into Battle Cat. You see Battle Cat at the end, but you do not see him turn Cringer into Battle Cat unless I blacked out and missed it. I just don't remember that happening. And so I would have liked to have seen that moment. That would have been really nice. But as it is, you see Cringer at the very beginning and you see him at the very end of the movie. He's brought back for a little bit, and that's basically it. Largely, he's absent from the film. Nicholas Galitzine, I'm saving him for last, for the good guys, because he was a standout. Like, he was fantastic. The way that he portrays Prince Adam and He-Man, which we can talk about that too, but let me get to my thoughts here. The way he portrays Prince Adam / He-Man is fantastic. He's a plucky, all shucks kind of goofball, and I dig it. And he's no different than he on Earth as he is in Eternia. You can tell, like, on Earth, it's like he's trying to convince people. Like, he has no problem telling people where he came from. There's this funny moment when he's on a date and he's trying to tell people, like, tell his date where he came from, and she's just not buying it and she just leaves. And that's kind of funny, like that they decided to, make him into this character that has, like, this one topic he loves to talk about, and anytime you go around him, like, that's what he's going to be talking about. And that's kind of funny and charming. I think he's got a charm to him that's great. When he becomes He-Man, you believe he really sells it, and that's a good thing, because there really is no personality shift that happens when he becomes He-Man. He is still Prince Adam. As a matter of fact, there's a scene in the movie when he goes to Snake Mountain and he confronts Goatman to, like, let me inside. I'm going to give the power sword to Skeletor, where he says, Goatman says, who are you? And he goes, I'm Prince Adam, Prince of Eternia, Prince Randor's son. Like, and he is He-Man. Like, he is standing there as He-Man. He never, in the cartoon, there's, shucks, guys, I wish I was brave enough to do stuff. But then when he becomes He-Man, he's like, I'll take care of it. And his voice is deeper. And, he's like, that's what you get. And, like it's almost like in the cartoon, like as a kid, I always looked at them as like two separate things. Like there's Prince Adam and there's He-Man. Prince Adam becomes He-Man. But Billy Batson becomes Captain Marvel or Shazam, right? Like it's like that. It's I never read it as in the cartoons as Clark Kent Superman. Like you're always Superman and you have to pretend to be this humble Clark Kent. That I never read it that way. It was always like this entity, this personality becomes this other personality. That's not how it is played in the movie. It's really the only difference visually. Visually, of course, his clothes go away and then they come back later and he's like, what happens to my shirt? Does it come back? Or my pants or whatever? Apparently they do. And like, so visually, like his clothes change, and then there's the scene where like you can see he like, it's not that he gets any more muscular, but the way they focus and concentrate on the arm, it's like his veins pop out a little bit more, and it's like he just becomes like a little more defined. I don't know. I would like to see that transformation sequence a few more times to really like pay attention and notice. But it's such a monumental moment and one you've already seen. I mean, they showed it in a clip and in a trailer. But his hair is the only thing that's really different. As Adam, his hair hangs straight down. As He-Man, it's blown out into this like 80s, like 70s Farrah Fawcett do, which looks great. Like he looks the part, no problem. But yeah, there's really no difference in attitude or personality. It's just like he's happier, and that's just kind of odd to me, but I get it. I think it would be really hard for a general audience who literally is going into this with no idea who He-Man is or Masters of the Universe or understand the lore or know what's going on. I don't think a general audience would understand a personality shift. As 40, 50-year-old men who grew up watching the cartoon as a kid, I think we would get it. But in a movie like this that costs this much to make, upwards of, what we're hearing is $175 to $200 million to make the film, then you want to try to reach a broad audience as possible. And to do that, you're going to have to make some creative choices that the general audience can follow. That was a little jarring, but as it went on, I just fell in line with it. And I was like, okay, this is working. That's He-Man. This is Prince Adam. Let's just call him He-Man and move on. But he never refers to himself as He-Man. Nobody calls him He-Man. There is no reference to He-Man until the very, very, very last minute of the film. And that gets into the names, and that's one of my complaints, and we're going to get back to that. Turning our attention to the characters on the good side, Beastman is fantastic. Anytime he's on screen, he's perfect. He could have been more orange for me, but he's perfect. Trapjaw, amazing. The only thing about Trapjaw I will say is that, and this is more of editing, in the scene where Prince Adam becomes He-Man for the first time, he's actually fighting Trapjaw on this bridge, and he's fighting Trapjaw. He defeats Trapjaw, and it looks like at one point he might have thrown like Trapjaw off the bridge in some other cut of the film. There seems like there was a scene where that might have happened because he ends up ripping Trapjaw's arm off when it's in gun mode, and then he uses it to mow down like nameless baddies on the other side of the bridge. And then after that, the good guys follow him across the bridge. He walks across the bridge. There's like a sort of a wide shot, and you don't even see Trapjaw laying on the ground. They don't step over his body. He just disappears. And then you don't see him for the rest of the movie until the very end, like the last act of the film, he shows back up. And of course, he's got a new arm and he's ready to go. And I kind of feel like there might have been a deleted scene in there where they dealt with why Trapjaw's body was not on the bridge, but that's a continuity editing thing. I think his look was great. Trapjaw's one of my favorite bad guys in the Motu universe, and so seeing him on screen was great. Triclops, completely wasted. I'm not even sure why he's in this film, like, at all. Like, I've seen a lot of social media posts over the weekend from the actor who played Triclops getting ready, putting on his makeup, posing in his outfit. He looks genuinely happy to have this role, and knowing how little he is in the movie, he is basically in 2 scenes of the film. If he's not just like, there's only one sequence in the film where he's not just standing around in the background, okay? Like, he gets to fight at the end, and he has a scene towards the middle where he's firing. Like, okay, so they have set him up with the eye thing, which I don't even remember. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even remember, like, his visor spinning in the movie and him changing, like, from the triangle to the circle to the square. But they have, and correctly so, adapted his character to be a sniper. It makes perfect sense, right? So as a kid, he came with a sword and the glow-in-the-dark ring. He has no sword. He's a sniper. That makes perfect sense. But if he is like one of the best snipers in Eternia, which is how he landed his position on Skeletor's cadre of bad guys list, he's terrible at it because he fires like 15 times at the good guys running around some stairs, and he misses them every time. So he is wildly ineffective in the film and largely absent. He's all in the marketing material. He got an action figure in the first wave of Chronicles figures, but is completely just devoid of any meaningful existence on film. So I really feel bad about that. Of course, then there's, like, is the guy named Kang or something, like Krang or whatever? Was this guy like in the 80s movie with Dolph Lundgren? I was like, I wonder why they chose to put him in there. Maybe he's from the mini comics. I don't remember him being in the cartoon. I don't remember having a toy of him when I was little. So like, I'm kind of, it's odd to me why he's in the film. Spike-Ore is great. Like, I absolutely love Spike-Ore. He gets a lot of screen time and deserves it. He is very beastly. And I kind of dig it. Alison Brie as Evil Lynn starts off in the film, like, whenever she's on screen, she's a little goofy, and that's okay. Like, but her performance just seems to maybe fall flat. Now, I also don't know, and I love Alison Brie as an actress and like a comedian. She's funny. She can be dramatic. Like, I really like her as an actress. I don't know if they shot this movie in linear, like, continuity, in order, or if they shot it out of order. I don't know. Some films shoot in order, and some budgetary reasons they shoot out of order. I'm not sure, but it almost seems like they shot this movie in order, and she didn't know how to play Evil Lynn at the beginning, but got more comfortable with her character over the course of the film, because she is much better as Evil Lynn towards the ending of the movie than she is at the very beginning. But I absolutely love her as Evil Lynn. I know a lot of people were like, "Ooh, like, why?" I don't get it. I thought she was great. I don't know who I would have picked to replace her, or I'm not sure you could. I mean, I don't know who would make a better villainess. Just nobody is like jumping to mind that would have been better for this role. I mean, maybe somebody in the caliber of like Lena Headey from Game of Thrones, who played Cersei, somebody like that who can really get evil. But I'm not sure she could have pulled off like the comedic chops that Evil Lynn, has to have to kind of subjugate herself, but also be sarcastic towards Skeletor. Getting to Skeletor is phenomenal. Like, in his look, in his portrayal, in Jared Leto's performance, in all of the choices, in all of the jokes. The best way that I can describe Skeletor in this movie is that he is a more competent Dr. Evil. But Dr. Evil in the sense of like he's a little out of touch with the world around him just a little bit. Like this guy's got such delusions of grandeur that it just makes him a little out of touch, like with what's going on. One of the funniest jokes is the clip they called Crescendo, where he's like, he's standing there laughing and he's continuing. I mean, this was a Dr. Evil joke as well, like just continuing to laugh and everybody's laughing, and then it fades off into this awkward moment. And he was like, that was my crescendo. Like when I laughed really loud, like that's when you guys were supposed to like laugh with me and we all stopped. Like that was, why didn't nobody? I thought it was great. Like that stuff like that, winking at me that way is really good. Let's talk a little bit about the pacing of the film, because I've heard that the movie feels a little long to people. And I kind of agree with that. I kind of feel like there could have been about 15 minutes of this movie, 10 to 15 minutes of this movie that could have been shaved off. A lot of that has to do with what I just talked about, the awkward timing after jokes. It was almost like the filmmakers were giving us time to laugh as an audience, but there wasn't a lot of laughs. Like we saw it 4 o'clock on a Friday. It was maybe halfway packed full of people. We saw it in Dolby Cinema, so it sounded really great. That does make for a higher ticket price. Maybe the smaller theaters or maybe the IMAX theater was packed. I'm not sure. But again, we saw Mando and Grogu in IMAX on Friday night, opening night, and 2 weeks ago, and there was barely anybody in the theater. I just think that that's just the state of theaters these days. So I do feel like the theatrical cut of this film could have been 10 to 15 minutes. There's definitely some scenes I think they could have completely cut altogether. But also, that being said, I would very much love it if there's a 4-hour director's cut of this film. Like, I would totally watch that as well. Like, if when it comes, to Amazon Prime Video, because, it's an Amazon film, when it comes out, if Travis Knight says there's a 3.5-hour director's cut, I'm down for it. I'm gonna watch that whole damn thing. Like, give me more. But in the theater, the theatrical cut as it was did seem a little long for me, basically because there was just some scenes I would have cut. I mentioned the Dolph Lundgren movie earlier, and I want to go back to that. Dolph Lundgren is in this movie in a very nice little scene where Adam is like working out. And he steps in front of he's picking up some weights and he's stepping in front of the mirror in the gym. And I think Dolph Lundgren's response was, "Hey, you're in my spot," which I thought's a funny little nod. Like, "Hey, you're in my role. Like, you're taking my role. You're taking my spot." I thought that was a funny little nod. And Adam is like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he's like, "It's okay." And he goes, "Well, do you have any words of wisdom or anything like that?" And he goes, "No, not really." And then as he walks off, he just says, "Good journey." Now, I didn't need that. See, you went too far. Having him in that role and the little nod of "you're in my spot," like, I like that. That's good. But being so on the nose with saying, "good journey" and doing the hand gesture, I was just like, ugh, why are you referencing that terrible film? Like, that 80s movie is not good. And nobody's ever going to convince me that it is. I mean, I've seen it recently. It does not hold up. The best thing about that movie is Skeletor, Frank Langella's Skeletor. Past that movie is just, for me, as a He-Man fan and a fan of cinema and somebody who is very forgiving when it comes to movies, I have never really liked that movie. I might have really liked it when I was a kid and saw it in the theater. But outside of that, it just wasn't. I mean, even as a kid, I was like, I'd rather watch the cartoon than this. So yeah, there's that. Now let's see. Is there anything else I love? I love the music, the score, the soundtrack is fantastic. The I believe the guy's name is Daniel Pemberton, who did the theme and the score, along with Brian May from Queen. That theme that he wrote, I would love to see an interview with him. I've looked and I can't find any where he's talking about the creation of the theme, because it sounds like that's always been the theme of the show, but it's not the theme. It's not even an adaptation of the theme of the cartoon, the opening theme. It's not at all, but it sounds like it has always been the theme. And as a designer, that's something that we look for in really good design, is you want to look for a design or a logo or a brand mark that looks like it has always been that way. Like, you look at that logo and you go, that's the logo they had in 2000 and in 88 and in 1953. Like, that logo has always been their logo. And even though it's not, but that's when you know something is good and timeless. The theme is incredible. The soundtrack is incredible. So yeah, that's all of the stuff that I really loved about He-Man. I would pay money to go see it again in the theater, and I will buy it when it comes out on 4K, HD, Blu-ray, whatever. So now let's talk a little bit about the things that I didn't like so much. I'm going to start off by saying that as somebody who is funny and I enjoy funny things and I love jokes and I love to laugh, I would say that for me, a lot of the jokes fell flat. Like I said earlier, it's almost like the filmmakers left us space to laugh at jokes that I didn't need space to laugh because it really wasn't that funny. So there was a lot of sexual innuendo in the film, from Skeletor, holding up He-Man and saying something about, I want the power of that sword that you dangle between your legs. It's stupid. There was a scene where Teela bends down. They don't show it because she bends out of frame and the frame stays locked on He-Man. She goes, but from down there, she says, your loincloth is kind of in my, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Dumb. There was a lot of fisting and fisto jokes. You can't really get around that. So those and this is coming from somebody who I cuss like a sailor. I am usually the most inappropriate person in any conversation. Somebody that, I am voted most likely to wind up in HR. Like, that's me. I don't know where the line is until I've crossed it. I just didn't need all of that. To me, it felt a little out of place. It didn't feel like my He-Man. And I just think I think those jokes were either improv on the day or maybe they're written, but I think that their thought in those moments were, the 45 to 50-year-old men are going to chuckle at this because they're watching something they watched when they were 10, 11, 12 years old. And mentally, maybe they're still that old. Like, it's that same kind of like 10, 11, 12-year-old boy humor. I just didn't need it. It felt really out of place. The movie has an earnesty to it and a wholesomeness to it that I feel like they could have gotten away with not. It might have even been better had those been taken out. And again, that might have helped the pacing and the timing. And, again, 10 to 15 minutes could have come off of this film. So we've talked about that. Oh, Triclops, wasted. Never even speaks. I wrote that down as a note. I don't think he says anything. Let's talk about the naming of the champions, because this is something that I did not expect that they were going to do. But when the champions are called by name, when towards there's a scene where Teela brings He-Man in, and Mossman and Fisto and Ram Man are standing there, and he's talking to them. I think this is where that is in the film. And he's like, "You're Ram Man." He goes, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, because you ram stuff." And he goes, "Yeah, I do, don't I?" And then he was like, "And you're Fisto." And he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Because you fist people, because you punch me." And he's like, "Where did you come up with these names?" And he goes, "Well, that's what I called you guys when I knew you as a kid. Is like, when I was 10, that's what I called you. You guys were my heroes. You were my champions." And that's So, like, they were poking fun at their names because they were saying this is what a 10-year-old kid would come up with. I didn't need that because I don't need a explanation for why, you know, Skeletor is called Skeletor. I don't need an explanation for why Evil Lyn is called Evil Lyn. A play on Evelyn. The bad guys, like there's a scene where He-Man has become, or Adam has become He-Man, and they fly off and they escape. And Skeletor was like, "Who was that with the sword? Round up all the good guys and bring them to me. I want to talk to them." So they're all on their knees. They're all subjugated before Skeletor, and Ram Man and Fisto and Mossman are there. And he says, "Pick one of them. That one there. Bring him over here." And she picks up Mossman. He goes, what is this one called? And she goes, "That's Moss Man." And he goes, "Oh," and he goes like, "Who's the hero?" And he goes, "I don't know." And and then he fries him and turns him into mulch. And he goes, "Ha ha ha, I made mulch." I thought that joke was funny, but they were making fun of, like, well, I don't know what to call him, so he's Moss Man. But we don't have a funny joke for why Beastman's called Beastman, because that's Beastman's name. Beastman is Beastman. So, like, I thought that was a little like either the writer or Travis Knight, the director, poking fun at the names of these characters, when clearly Travis Knight, the director, has a love for these characters. He has a love for this franchise, and the love that he has for this franchise is most definitely shown on screen. There is no doubt in my mind that he loves this world. That's why it's jarring when he pokes fun at it. And I'm also like conscious of the fact that you can pretty much make fun of anything, even things that you love. Sure, I poke fun at my wife. She pokes fun at me. We love each other. But at the same time, this is the only thing in the film that I really bumped up against that I really didn't like, was really just the making fun of their names, because there's really no need to. If that's Cringer, and that's Evil Lyn, and that's Beastman, then that's Ram Man, and that's Fisto, and I don't know why we're calling attention to it. And also, why call attention to their names and say, well, that's what I called you, and then not give them names? And even Fisto goes, "That's not my name." Well, then what is your name? What's your name? Like, what is it? Like, if you're going to call out that that's not your name, then what is your name? And if you're not going to give us a better reason or a better name, then don't make fun of it. That's the only thing that I bumped up against. Adam and He-Man have the same personality. Cringer is largely absent. We talked about that. Oh, okay. Talking about the scene where Trapjaw is on the bridge, and is there a scene cut there? There is this odd scene, and I really wish somebody in the comments could explain this to me. There's a scene where the heroes are in jail. We've seen this in the trailer. And he was like, "And you're Mechanic." And he's like, "Yeah." And Man at Arms is like, "Put your neck away." And they all jokingly call him Alan instead of Adam. And he says, "It's Adam." And then they break out of the jail. Okay. So they have this moment where Roboto is in there, and she now has like her battle mode has been activated, so she can actually do some damage now. We've already been shown like her strengths, and then why she has to like shoot the rocks and they all push the gate down, whatever. All right. There's this weird scene about them trying to escape. But right after that, they walk into the hallway, and there's this slow motion shot of them walking through the hallway towards this table of bad guys. And all of a sudden, the tunnel fills with gas and smoke, and they all start coughing and choking, and like Fisto is like spitting up because like stuff is in his mouth, and they're like, "Oh, what is that?" And I thought, oh, they're about to introduce Stinkor. And then nothing. They just push through, fight the bad guy. I don't know what that was. Like, the hall wasn't filled with smoke and mist prior to them walking into it. And then all of a sudden it is. Like, it is very clearly a shot where like gas and smoke have now filled this there was no mention of, oh, we must have set off a booby trap or whatever. Like, there's nothing. And I thought that was very odd. So was that like a scene where um uh Stinkor was, introduced and then cut? I don't know. Then why not cut that scene? I have no idea. That was a weird and odd thing, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it. Am I making a bigger deal out of it than it actually was? Um, uh, and then, oh, I wrote down a note. Needed a few more lore drops. Yes. So I was actually watching the film, and and there had not been any really good, clean close-up shots of the fighter jet that Tila picks He-Man up, or Prince Adam up in New York on Earth, and she you see the back of the ship, but you see the cockpit, but you don't really see the front of the ship. And then it takes off, and they're going through space, and they're flying over Eternia, and you don't really get a good look at the ship. And she keeps referring to the ship as ship. She was like, ship, do this. And the computer goes, okay. And then she's like, ship, do this. And it's like, okay, here, I'm doing that thing. And so I was like, why isn't this thing the Talon Fighter? Why isn't this the Talon Fighter that lands on the top of Castle Grayskull? Why doesn't it look like an eagle? Why doesn't it look like a bird? And then they show like a wide shot of the front of the ship, and it most definitely is an eagle and a bird. And I'm like, oh, that is the Talon Fighter. Well, why isn't it ever called the Talon Fighter? Why didn't they, instead of just calling the ship, why not say Talon Fighter or Talon? Or I don't know. It just seemed odd to me to not make a reference to it when she calls it such a goofball name, like ship. Like, I don't know. I thought that was weird. There should have been, if you're gonna have Cringer show up at the very beginning, okay, he's literally in the opening scenes of Adam talking as being, like an 8, 9, 10-year-old talking with his mom, Marlena, in her chamber, which, by the way, there's a shot in there where you can see her space helmet in the back. They don't ever talk about how she came from Earth, but you can see her astronaut helmet in the back in her room, and I thought that was really dope. But there's also a wide shot in one of the trailers, like, of inside of the castle, Eternia Castle, where Randor and Adam and Marlena are running across this tiny little bridge, and I inaccurately thought that might have been Orko following along with them on the bridge, but it wasn't. It's the three of them. Like, that shot's missing from the film, so that scene was deleted. But Cringer is not there. He is not following Adam. He is not following Marlena. He is not with them. You see him as a baby. So you see him as a cub. He's got some lines at the very beginning, which is also kind of weird because he's voiced by a little kid, roughly the same age as Adam. And when he first speaks, it's off camera. So the camera is not on Cringer when he speaks for the very first time. And it was a little jarring because I was like, who's speaking right now? Is that Adam or is that Cringer? Well, I don't know if the first line he says is off camera. I think he does say something as he's walking into frame, but then Marlena says something to him, says something to Adam, and then it cuts, and it's the camera, I think, is on Marlena, and Cringer speaks again, and it was like, who's talking right now? Which little boy is talking? But it could have been a very simple, like, little piece of lore drop when Cringer shows up again in the jail cell, because, you would expect that Cringer would have been there at the headquarters when Tila brings Prince Adam there for the very first time. She would say, like, here's all of your friends and someone special, Cringer. But he's not there. You don't meet him until you meet Marlena again in the jail cell scene. But even something to acknowledge why we haven't seen Cringer that whole time, like a singular line where he says, I stayed behind and protected your mom. Like, something like that, I think, would have gone a very, very long way. But one other little piece of lore drop that I think would have been super helpful is that there's also like this kind of throwaway line, like, after He-Man has become He-Man and they have like the big ship battle and they've crashed and they're going to like camp in the woods of Eternia overnight in the forest. And then Skeletor like appears in the clouds, and he says, if you know, your mom and dad are alive, and I will release them if you trade me for the sword. Adam says, as He-Man, Adam says, come on, let's go. It's this way. Now, I don't know how in the world Adam would know which way Snake Mountain is. Maybe he remembers from a kid. Maybe when he was a kid, somebody told him where it was. I don't know. But this just goes back to the conversation of Adam and He-Man being the two different things, two different entities with two different personalities, is that if it was said something along the lines of He-Man, or when you become the champion, when you hold the sword and you say the magic words, that you're imbued with the knowledge of the champions, you're imbued with, you know, the knowledge of Eternia, something to that effect, I think would have gone a long way to sort of explain. It's kind of a throwaway line, but it's also, you have to start thinking, like my wife leaned over and she goes, how would he know where it is? I don't know. I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. Those are the nitpicky things that I bumped up against a little bit. But here's, at the end of the day, here's where we are. For me, this movie is like a 9 out of 10 because I didn't think this movie was ever going to happen. It was set up a few years ago at Netflix. We had Noah Centineo, who played the Atom in Black Adam. He also is playing Ken in the Street Fighter movie in October, cast as He-Man. And then that fell apart. It just seems like this was the movie that was never going to happen. And it finally did. And not only did it happen, it's actually good. It was actually fun. So considering what we've gotten before and what we have now, I'm so happy that the little things I could care less about. You know, maybe we'll get an extended cut. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll get a part 2. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll get a She-Ra film. Maybe we won't. Maybe that'll lead to a Thundercats movie. Maybe it won't. Who knows? I guess the only other thing left to talk about maybe is the end credit scene. We have Orko coming in and giving the moral of today's episode, which I loved. I thought that was perfect. And then the mid-credits sequence is the fright zone, and then showing us that Princess Adora has now become She-Ra, and that's kind of cool. And then you wait through all of the credits just to see Skeletor's skull on the ground and Evelyn pick it up, and then you've looked better, and then walk off. I really think that scene should have been the mid-credits. You know, end with Orko because that's perfect. And then the mid-credits scene is Evelyn finding Skeletor's skull and making off with it. And then the very last, at the end of the very last thing before the lights come up, you see is this mind melting, as Pixel Dan called it, scene. I think having that be the last thing, but as it is, that little joke, like you've looked better or whatever it is, that was just kind of a throwaway line. We kind of figured Skeletor is going to come back in some way, you know, like he's not going to be gone forever, but you have to give the hero a win. And I get it. I love this movie. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast. I would go see it again in the theater. I would pay to go see it again in the theater. But seeing how it's tracking already at 54 million this weekend, and then next weekend is Disclosure Day, and I don't think it's going to unseat that unless word of mouth is like crazy strong. I think Amazon's really going to do a big push to drive people to Amazon Prime to be able to start streaming this movie, and in really fast succession. I think it's going to be up pretty quickly within the next few weeks, I would imagine. So we'll get to explore it more, catch more little Easter eggs, little details in the background. But let me know in the comments down below, what did I get wrong here? Did I get anything wrong in my assessment? Did I say anything wrong? Did I get it wrong? Let me know, and then let me know what you guys think of the movie in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. I super appreciate it. Please check us out over at Instagram at Saturday Morning Toy Collector. I am your Saturday Morning Toy Collector, Mark, and I'll see you in the toy aisles.